In a quiet, snow-covered village nestled between towering mountains, there lived an old woman named Anya. She was known for carrying a simple, weathered lantern wherever she went. What made this lantern special, however, was not its appearance but its purpose. Whenever anyone in the village faced hardship or sorrow, Anya would visit them, light her lantern, and sit quietly with them. Somehow, her presence brought comfort, and the light of the lantern seemed to brighten even the darkest moments. One cold winter evening, a young man named Elias knocked on Anya's door. Elias was struggling with his life. He felt overwhelmed by failure, jealousy, and bitterness. His dreams seemed out of reach, and he couldn't understand why others were thriving while he was barely surviving. "I've heard your lantern can help people," Elias said, his voice heavy with despair. "But I don't see how light can fix what's broken inside me." Anya smiled warmly and motioned for him to sit by the fire. "It's not the lantern itself that holds power, but what it represents. Come, let me show you." Anya handed Elias the lantern and told him they were going for a walk. The young man hesitated but followed her out into the frosty night. The snow crunched under their boots as they walked toward the hills. Along the way, Anya stopped at the home of a widow who lived alone. She lit the lantern and left it at the woman's doorstep, knocking gently before moving on. "Why did you do that?" Elias asked, puzzled. "She's lonely," Anya replied. "The light reminds her that someone cares." They continued walking, stopping next at the modest house of a family who had recently lost their crops to a harsh frost. Anya placed the lantern on their windowsill and whispered, "This light will remind them of hope when all seems lost." Elias frowned. "But what does this have to do with me? My problems are different. I'm stuck in a life that feels unfair." Anya paused, looking Elias in the eyes. "You feel trapped because you focus on what you lack, not on what you have. Gratitude is like this lantern. It illuminates what's still good and bright in your life. Without it, you'll remain in darkness." As they returned to Anya's house, she handed the lantern back to Elias. "Tonight, I want you to think of one thing you're grateful for. Just one. Light the lantern when you find it." Elias scoffed, but he agreed. That night, as he stared at the lantern, his mind wrestled with the task. He wanted to claim there was nothing to be grateful for, but a memory surfaced. He thought of his sister, who had always encouraged him despite his failures. He thought of how she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. For the first time in months, Elias smiled. He lit the lantern. Over the following weeks, Elias began practicing gratitude daily. Each night, he lit the lantern and reflected on something good in his life. Slowly, his perspective changed. The bitterness and jealousy he once felt gave way to peace and purpose. He started helping others, just as Anya had. And like the old woman, he carried the lantern with him, spreading its light to those in need. Years later, when Anya passed away, the villagers found hundreds of lanterns she had given to others over the years. Her legacy of gratitude lived on, as did the lessons she had taught. Elias became the new bearer of the original lantern, passing on Anya's wisdom to the next generation. Gratitude is a light that can guide us through life's darkest moments. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, we find peace, hope, and the strength to move forward.